Welcome to an expansive life conversation with results architect SANDE GOLGART. Our guest today is David Meltzer. David is the chairman of the Napoleon Hill Institute and formerly served as CEO of the renowned Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. He is a globally recognized entrepreneur, investor, and top business coach. Variety magazine has recognized him as their Sports Humanitarian of the Year and has been awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. Your journey to realignment from fear to freedom starts now. Live an expansive life.
Wow. Welcome, everyone. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome David Meltzer, a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, and somebody I just enjoy speaking with and sharing conversations with. So everyone is in for an amazing treat. David, before we jump into questions about living on the other side of fear and relating to circumstances in life, I just want to make sure we all arrive and create a better relationship with time. So we typically start with 3 really quick box breaths. So I'll lead that, take us less than a minute, and then we'll jump right in. So if everyone, as usual, can start just by taking in on a count of 4, an inhale through your nose. We're going to hold that for 4 seconds, and then we're going to exhale for 8. We'll do that 3 times, and then we'll get things started. So on the inhale for 2, 3, 4, and then hold for 2, 3, 4, and then exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back to inhale for 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4, and then exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last time, in for 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have arrived. Dave Meltzer, how are you, my friend?
Phenomenal would be an understatement. This is an extraordinary day for me. Whenever I see one of my amazing neighbors, people who have worked with me, just achieving so much and carrying forward my mission of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. So thank you so much for Sandy being one of my 1,000 and carrying our mission forward.
Yeah, when we first met and you talked about 1 billion people experiencing happiness, it seems like such a massive number. But when you think about just like the ripple effect, like that can exist in the quantum of, just making one person happy, how that trickle down effect can affect other people. I now see how the work you're doing and how it's going to change, the whole world. So welcome to the show. I'm dying to ask, and I'm sure all of our viewers who are joining us from all different parts of the globe can't wait to hear from someone who had Tom Cruise play him in the movie Jerry Maguire. If they ever do a movie about me and Tom Cruise plays my part, I think I'd be quite honored. So with that, I want you to share your thoughts, if you can, on 2 different things. I know we only have you for a few minutes, but your best life being on the other side of your biggest fears and how you've kind of faced some of those fears. And then also, then we can maybe transition a little bit into just talking about how we relate to circumstances and changing the lens that we see life unfolding and how that can change your life overall. You've had such an amazing experience with life. What would you care to share with those listening?
I would love to share because those are 2 of the critical shifts in the paradigm of my own existence. And the first is about fear. I spent millions of dollars on personal and professional development and therapy, trying to figure out how the traumas, the past life trauma, the womb, the toddler, the infant, the tween, the teen, the 20s, 30s, 40s, and now my 50s trauma has created a fear and how that fear has interfered with my potential. And what I've concluded is a mechanism that has changed my life. And the mechanism is I will never know what traumas are creating the fears of the present. But I do know that no matter where I am in the present, that fear will be present. And what I do know about fear is that we react to fear as humans in the human experience. And the way we react to fear is through the ego. And the ego creates an instant and obvious reaction. It doesn't need personal development. It doesn't need professional development. And it certainly doesn't need therapy, because when you have a need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, frustrated, worried, all things that you and I have shared together in our own friendship, it's instant and obvious. When I'm worried, I don't need a therapist to tell me I'm worried. When I'm pissed off, I don't need a therapist to tell me I'm pissed off. But where this paradigm is shift for me in the relationship with fear interfering with my potential is that we must focus on our response to the instant and obvious, our response to the reaction to fear. And there's only one response. And I've defined that as free will in the human experience. And that definition stems from the only way to shorten the distance of resistance that the reaction to fear has in our lives when we have this separate, inferior, superior type of reaction, and it's to stop. Now, that seems really simple, but I want to remind everyone the simple things to do are simple not to do. And when you're in the heat of an argument, when you're worried about the future, it's not so simple to tell ourselves stop, and let alone to actually stop. The second is to drop, to breathe through our nose. The four breath work that we just easily do is one of the mechanisms that we can use to drop down to ease, to center, to remind, remember, and recollect with God, with Source, and be at ease so that we can roll into the divine direction. In other words, my simple relationship to fear is when my mind, body, and soul are on fire, it's instant and obvious. I know that it is a reaction to fear. I don't give a shit what I'm afraid of, but I know I'm reacting to fear. I know my mind, body, soul are on fire. And everybody knows when you're on fire, you need to stop, you need to drop, and you need to roll in your divine direction towards your potential. And that epiphany of a paradigm shift of fear has changed my own path and has allowed me to spend the majority of the time in divine, either a divine detour or divine direction, and stop interfering with my potential. So now, when I have those natural reactions to fear, I only spend minutes and moments accelerating in the wrong direction, creating cortisol in my own system. I now spend more time in the divine.
That's so beautiful. I love it. I think one a lot of times when we hear something like that, it sounds so easy, as you
Yeah,
mentioned.
simple
But
things to
when you're in
do.
it, it's very difficult to like really remember because things are pumping, you got adrenaline. One of the mechanisms I've been able to put into my life is realizing that life presents us with people and circumstances to show us where we're stuck or not free. So every time now that I get that feeling, I'm able to remember, oh, this is just showing me where I'm stuck. It's not the person over there who has the problem. They're a divine being. They're just being. I'm the one who has the issue. So let me recenter, and magically they will recenter. So that brings us to the next part of the conversation, which is just how we relate. Talk a little bit about how you've learned to relate to circumstances in your life and how that's changed your trajectory.
Well, most recently, especially even since the time that we were working together, circumstances and uncertainty have played a critical role in my own growth. And what I mean by that is, as you know, I've always been, my love language, I should say, has always been time. And
Yes.
so here's how I've developed my own framework and strategy with circumstance. I believe that we are having a human experience that is bookend by our heart starting and our heart stopping. To understand circumstances is to understand non-negotiable behavior. And so one of the newer things that I'm teaching and utilizing in my own life is to really understand that when we have non-negotiable behavior, circumstances play no role in our pursuit of our potential. They have no role in the acceleration, aggregation, and compounding of our capability in this human experience. So what I do is I start with the obvious, which is sleep. So I make sleep a non-negotiable. A minimum of 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. I will make sure that I have a sleep coach, an unwinding routine. I am going to be in the Hall of Fame of sleep. I'm one of the best sleepers in the world for the sake of recovery and access of information and inspiration. And so then I move to a minimum of an hour on my health, where I focus in on what God tells me is most important, which is He says, number one, if you don't sleep, you die, your heart stops. If you don't eat, you die. If you don't drink, you die. If you don't move, you die. And if you don't breathe, you die. So I have experts helping me with the non negotiable behaviors that keep my heart beating and allow me to accelerate, aggregate, and compound. Then I go to a minimum of an hour a day with my family and relatives. Then I go to finance and faith and the study of time and the study of relativity. And so for 12 hours a day minimum, circumstance has no play and no role in my human experience because I know that it's non negotiable 7 days a week. And here's the thing 90% of my success comes from taking care of the non negotiables in a minimum amount of time. Now, the freeing thing is that I also spend 12 hours a day of awake time. Remember, most people, that 12 hours of non negotiable, most of it's sleep. So it's really not a taxing OCD type of activity. But more importantly, now I get really good at aligning the other 12 hours of activity in my day with what's important to me according to the circumstances of the day, the interest rates, the weather, all the different things that disrupt or interfere with our potential. And I also align the meaning of the past, the lessons of the past, the failures, setbacks, mistakes, defining moments, historical relevances of the past, which God has given me the power to give meaning to, by the way. And I align that meaning with the divine direction in which I choose. Now, I do make exceptions on my non negotiable behavior. I am human. Sometimes it is a taxing challenge to get all of the minimums in, but I never stack two L's, two losses in a row. So if I should have to take an exemption on one of my non negotiables, it then becomes a super priority. And I make sure that it doesn't become a new behavioral path. It just was a mistake, a setback, or an exemption because of circumstances that were outside of my control. So in the relationship with circumstance, half of my life is non-circumstantial. It's non-negotiable. And then I'm getting better at the antidote to feeling overwhelmed and procrastination with the negotiable circumstantial behavior because I'm constantly aware, intentional of doing, saying, thinking, feeling, and believing in alignment with my prioritization of the now and the next. And prioritization is the antidote to feeling overwhelmed and procrastinating. If you know how to prioritize, if you know what to do now and know what to do next, it's impossible to feel overwhelmed or procrastinate.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm wondering too if you can speak from, your journey where you amassed 100 million, went bankrupt, and now here you are leading a much more expansive life with those non-negotiables. It seems to me from the outside, because of those non-negotiables, your expansion actually makes room for more people and, more
Yeah.
tolerance, more everything. Which could you speak a little bit to that? Because that relationship, as I've seen, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so ironic. It's counterintuitive to think when you're mission driven, not only do the commissions follow, but productivity follows, accessibility follows, and gratitude follows. And so, being chairman of Napoleon Hill Institute, understanding when you have a definiteness of purpose, you are not searching for your why, you're applying your why. And so you have faith in something that's more than enough of everything for everyone. You have faith that you're protected, promoted, loved, and perfected when there's no evidence or the evidence is contrary to where you think you want to be. And so within the context of that meaning, with for the sake of others, or whatever your mission may be, lies within it the everything for everyone concept, this omniscient, all powerful, all knowing source, this infinite, abundant, unified system of thought in which we all belong to. So no longer will we trade or negotiate. No longer is there a need to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. But instead, you're constantly giving more, being given more, even though you don't always know what you're given. When I lost everything over $100 million, I didn't know all that I was given, but I was given more. And then to receive more, and then to ask for more than more, so that we can give more than more, be given more than more, receive more than more, and ask for more than more than more. You see where we now are going to end up in that universe abundantly with more than enough of everything for everyone. And this is a perspective that is not only one in which requires you to pay attention, but it also demands, or I should say commands, works with the universe, command, the intention to do, say, think, feel, and believe. Because the mathematical equation of luck, Sandy, is what we pay attention to and what we give our intention to equals the coincidences in our lives, the coinciding, the commanding of our lives, the coincidences that others deem to be luck, and it's not. I always say, don't call me lucky when I have failed more times than you've tried. And a lot of people do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I would relate to that as just awareness. You taught me early on that the only thing in between you and the amazing life you think you want is your resistance to it. It's
Yes.
all trying to enter, it's all around you. You just have to slow down and realize it's not over there, it's right in front of you. Calm down, open your eyes, and you'll see that person wanting to write a check, needing your help. They're here. You're just too busy chasing a life you think you want, that you think is over there, you think it's in the future. How are you on time? I know you were kind
Yeah,
enough to
I
give
got
us
about
20
nine
minutes.
about 9 minutes more for you. So I got a
Oh,
hard
amazing.
stop at 1:30 Pacific.
So let's talk a little bit then about your new role as chairman of the Napoleon Hill Institute. Congratulations. What a phenomenal accolade and opportunity for you. What are the amazing things you all are doing?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, why was it so important to me? And not only did Think and Grow Rich, but Outwitting the Devil and the success principles of Napoleon Hill have an extraordinary impact on several different seasons of my life, especially starting off as a 19-year-old entrepreneur. But more importantly, what I've seen in the content game really motivated me and inspired me to be chairman of Napoleon Hill Institute. I see some of my great mentors like Bob Proctor and Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, that because they did not create a social silo, they did not perpetuate their content on the digital format, and they are not promoting it, all of their lessons are getting lost in the noise. And unfortunately, there's a lot of 19-year-old life coaches out there trying to pretend like they're Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, and Deepak Chopra, and they're not. And so I saw the opportunity to be chairman of something that already had built a legacy, over a 500 million books sold, world renowned, and be able to place the content of my mentors, the Brian Tracys and the Maxwells and the Dyers and the Proctors and the Zig Ziglars of the world, all of these amazing mentors with amazing content, but to be able to house them under a brand, under an institute that can help our future generations, not only with the mindset, but the heart set and the handset, in order to accelerate in an appropriate direction. You see, our bench is deep with our young people. We just got to make sure that we're surrounding them with the right people and the right ideas. And those were the people that have instilled an empowering state of mind, heart, and handset that helped me and has helped you not only achieve in our personal, professional, athletic lives, but in our spiritual journey as well, to make life easy, as you mentioned earlier, by identifying the dis-easy. And when we can shorten that distance of resistance, one of the things I've also learned or taught since you and I were working together, every struggle, every challenge only exists because we have a body. If you didn't have a body, there'd be no pain, no struggle, no challenges. But within the context of that struggle, pain, and challenge, the solution is already there. It's just a lapse of time before we find the resolution, the resolution of that struggle, pain, or setback. And so, what we want to do, as you suggested, is shorten that distance of resistance between the struggle and the resolution, the resolution, by seeking wisdom, which is what my intention is of running the Napoleon Hill Institute, but also with faith, a simple faith that there's something bigger than you that loves you more than your mom, that knows everything, has an omniscient, all powerful, more than enough energy and inspiration for everything and everyone. And when you start realizing that, if you could have met Sandy Golgart when I met him, and the conversations that were stuck in a vacuum with his boss and his owner of his company and these business deals, and then to see him today in an expansive life, empowering others, and so much ease, your energy and your entire frequency has changed dramatically.
Don't I know it? It's wild. It's such a game of opposites. When I first came to you, it was a chasing energy. Like, Dave, how can you help me amass this many millions?
Yeah.
What I learned out of that was the key to all of it was actually learning how to relax, how to realize that there weren't any problems. It's the illusion of problems, and how do you dissolve that by removing interference, being able to see both sides of somebody's opinion, make room for it, not be in conflict, and not being in a state of resistance, to life. So I owe a lot of that back to those early conversations. It's kind of fun to think back, but I'm sure a lot of people tuning in have that same grip on the wheel of life, feeling like I need to control where this goes because I'm afraid if I don't know, it might take me to a bad place, and realizing the power of just taking your hands off the wheel and relaxing into that. So, how can people get a free copy of one of the great books that I've read, Connected to Goodness, David Meltzer, your
Thank-
first
Yeah.
book?
Thank you so much. Well, I will, if anyone in your community would like a free book, I will sign a book, send it to them, Connected to Goodness. I will pay for the book and for shipping. So just email me directly, david@dmeltzer.com. If you email me directly at david@dmeltzer.com, I'll sign a book, send it to you, pay for the book and shipping. On my mission, I know that's the best way to start if you're going to be part of our neighborhood, to empower others, Sandy's a student extraordinaire, and now he's living as one of my 1000s. He's empowering thousands to empower thousands because he gets it, he understands it, and a good place to start is Connected to Goodness and my mission of empowering over 1 billion people. And I appreciate the platform, but most of all, there's nothing that makes somebody feel better than when they're able and capable of helping somebody else. And I can see where you're at today, the frequency and the energy that I played a small role in guiding you to do the work. You did the work. You are credited for the whole thing, but I'm just pleased that I could guide you and your energy to the right place with the right people and the right ideas.
Yeah, well, so much of it starts by meeting with and sharing with people who are already there. One of the things that I've learned to appreciate is people who are in the place that you want to be always want to lift you up. People in the place that you might be leaving always want to pull you back. And that's been a big lesson. Lastly, before we let you go, Dave, when you become more expansive and you start doing business deals, clearly you can do them with great people or you can do them with dicks. Tell us about your newest book coming out.
Yeah.
Don't do business with dicks.
Well, I got a long pre-order cycle because I wanted to mirror the football season. So I launched pre-order in the first game of the season, And I'm going to launch the book at the Super Bowl on Radio Row with Apple TV, Sirius XM, Reach TV. So we'll have a great launch with all the different outlets and capability that we have there. But don't do business with dicks. It has a great commercial title. I've learned that Compassionate Capitalism, Game Time Decision, Unstoppable, Creating the Life You Love, and Connected to Goodness are fantastic best-selling books. But that title doesn't stop people at the airport. That title, Don't Do Business with Dicks, I promise you, it has stopped people when I was writing it. It stops people when they hear it, and they are going to be compelled to surround themselves with the right people and the right idea. Don't let the title fool you. It is about kindness, it is about peace and ease. And although it has a hook as a title, what's inside that cover, I promise you, will change your life and change other people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, it seems also like it's sort of a slant towards one of the non-negotiables that you might have, creating healthy boundaries. You can you can try and be busy and do it with the wrong people and be sucked into an energy that's depleting. I imagine that's probably part of the book, if not the whole
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. It's a paradigm shift of I am, not this is what I want people to think I am. It's an
Yeah.
energy dissipator between I am and this is what I want people to think I am. And if you want to live in the world of I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am worthy, this book will show you what you're doing to interfere with it. The people, places, things, situations, ideas, content, a variety of things that you have to protect yourself from, creating those boundaries to live at ease.
Amazing. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an unbelievable pleasure. We're super grateful and always great to see you, always great to catch up.
You're always invited. We can't wait to do more with you. I'm incredibly proud. Remember, I love you. I'm proud of you. And I always have your back, Sandy Goldgart. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right. How amazing was that? So, Dave is somebody that I started working with at a point in time in my life when I felt like I'm not sure how this is all, going to go. Where does the rest of my life lead? I was actually in a place where I was trying to think like, do I just put my landing gear down? Have I accomplished what I came here to accomplish? And that really heightened for me at a period of time right after COVID, where I started getting these instant migraine headaches through a series of tests to like make sure it wasn't something they go through a process of elimination. I ended up having to get these CAT scans done. And I remember thinking like, man, who knows how these tests are going to come back? Maybe it's something big that might signal the end, who knows? Maybe it's nothing. And I remember going through and doing the inventory on my own life and kind of trying to justify. And I didn't like that I was having to justify the life that I had led. I've lived an amazing life to that point, been around some amazing people, have two unbelievable kids. Like I had a lot that I could point to, but I had a feeling like deep in my gut that many of you watching may also have, where I felt like I've never really tapped into my purpose at the soul level, like what I was truly here to do. I'd spent some time, selling commercial real estate, serviced real estate. I'd spent some time in insurance. I'd spent some time in modular building, other places. And I just could feel that I knew I'd never emptied the tank or emptied my karma in what I was really here to do. I was not here to do those things. I was doing those things to chase money, chase titles, and do what I thought represented success because that was the level of awareness that I had at the time. And I was simply just doing the best that I could. But as I waited for the results of that test, I realized, man, this is different. There's something else scratching and whispering in my ear. And when I got the test back, they said, can't find anything. Determined that I was just allergic to alcohol and I should not have another sip, just let it go. And I thought, all right, whatever I do from here on out, I'm going to empty the tank, really find what is truly inside of me and let it out. I'll spend the rest of my time And that seemed like such a worthy venture. And that's when I reached out to Dave. And Dave immediately taught me in the first conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. I had a list of all the things I thought meant a great life. I had X number of $1 million. I had all of these material things that I wanted to accomplish. And he said to me on the first call, well, our first step is we're going to rip up your list, because time and those things are only going to put those things in resistance. The moment you say, I don't have them and I need them, you're building resistance towards them. We're going to learn how to shift and fall in love with the process. Start stripping away every part of your life that is in resistance to the things that you think you want. We're going to start looking at and playing with energy. And that led me down a completely different path that I started falling in love with. Then he introduced me and we started studying Einstein together a bit. The concepts that Einstein was coming up with, the theory of relativity, which he just talked about, how many people can view the same thing differently and relate to the same circumstance differently. And that just started to change my entire life, my entire trajectory. So I personally will forever be grateful for that initial work that I did with David, who continues to do, amazing work. But after that, one of the things he started pointing out is that every time we talked, he was able to point out the things you want are signals of fear. Like you're trying to fill different voids inside of you because you're not really becoming your true self. And he started to really challenge the way that I was thinking about myself, my being. And I will tell you, the thing I was most afraid of, I was most afraid of finding out who I really was. So I had friends, business colleagues, peers, bosses, and they would all say, like, everything in your essence is about growth, about love, and about freedom. And I would say, yeah, I know I feel that, but there's no money in it. Like I need to go do something where I'm chasing money, and I need to be a VP, EVP, SVP, the CEO, president. That's where the money is. And so I started putting on these veils of being a business guy. And I was okay at it. I'm not going to say, I never amassed $100 million like Dave did in his first iteration of his life. But I was pretty good. I was probably much better at leading teams, but I wasn't this exceptional business person. I could play the game. I could get into the game of manipulation and kind of manage my way through it. I held a bunch of titles. I led a lot of people and made a decent amount of money. But I could feel that in my soul that just wasn't who I was. But I was really afraid. I had this fear that if I became who I really am, which is this higher vibrating, very relaxed person that has room for everyone, the way they think, the way they act, I realized that there are no problems with anybody. Everyone is a boundless soul. I could learn to come from a place of love, appreciate the fact that you were boundless, limitless souls, and they were just coming at life, doing the best that they could with the level of awareness they had and their own levels of constraint that they were operating within. And then now, what I've understood about all of that is the more we zoom out from this kind of dissension down into tactical hell, where we're trying to chase and we're trying to accumulate and we're trying to manipulate our way so that the external world reflects the way we think it should be so that we can then be happy and prosperous, is that you can let all of that go. You can stop playing the exhaustive game of trying to see the world the way you think it should be operating so that you're okay, and shift that where you're okay no matter what. You realize that life is just happening. It's not happening to you. Start to pay attention to things like patterns and abundance and expansive ways of living and seeing life. And you realize I'm on the most amazing planet, having the most amazing opportunity to treat this like a playground, go hike in the Grand Canyon, go see the cliffs of Ireland, go play golf in Scotland, go explore and go do all these things that you thought previously were out of reach or you would do one day. And I realized I'm just going to start marking these things on my calendar and start knocking them off. And then lo and behold, Jesse Itzler is then introduced to me, and he's got this whole way of living a more expansive life. He and Sarah Blakely, his wife, probably lead the most expansive life of anybody that I know, with the businesses they've operated, the communities they've built, and the way that they go about helping people live an amazing version of their own life. Just then blew the doors open so that I could start experiencing those kinds of things, but also do them with amazing people, and then make room for everybody, and then start to transition to how can I take what I now know, not just from a knowledge base, but I've then experienced, I've stripped away layers of interference, fear, and resistance so that I can confidently step into that and start helping people. So one of the things, again, that I was very much in resistance to was this idea of coaching, especially like life coaching. Again, I thought, I don't know how much money's in it, but the whole industry kind of rubs me the wrong way. And who am I to tell people how to live their life? But that's when the idea and the ability to start visiting, like, where's that coming from? Where have I created the relationship to coaching and life coaching that makes me feel that way about it? And I started to take inventory, and I could see, there are a lot of people in the industry that I don't particularly care for the way they approach it. They're trying to get you to follow one structure, do it their way, and try to tell you how to live their life. They're trying to show you, hey, look how interesting I am. Don't you also want a life like mine? And those were all the things that I thought, I don't ever really want to be a part of that. What I really want to be a part of is helping to unlock those same levels of resistance within people so that they could start taking on their own version of what an expansive life would mean to them. They could start removing, they could follow a structure, but not imitate the process somebody else went through. And then I was introduced to Peter Crone. And so through those synchronicities, Peter's the one who's helped me the most to realize that life just presents you with circumstances and people to mirror back to you every way that you're stuck, that you're not free. So anything that triggers you, anything that makes you feel uneasy, whatever it is in society, could be political, could be sexual, could be money, could be whatever it is that kind of has you feeling uneasy. That's simply showing you where you're stuck. It has nothing to do with what's over there. That started to give me a whole nother level of layers showing me where I was stuck in my life, where I wasn't okay with certain things. And I started to realize there's no problem with anybody. Nobody's wrong. They just have their perspective based on their life experiences, their circumstances, for how they relate to a circumstance. And then they develop their opinion. And from their opinion, that's kind of where they create their beliefs. It doesn't mean they're wrong. I've never lived their life, gone through their circumstances, and seen life or circumstances from their perspective. And it started to help me really develop new layers, new levels of empathy and then to realize too, now with awareness, if somebody's really interested in zooming out and getting a bigger picture of life, I now have a system to help them back up, zoom out, recognize where they might be stuck so that they can have a more expansive view, more expansive understanding, and unlock a layer of freedom or levels of freedom in their life so that they realize, I am completely free. I can go do whatever I want to do, and I can start living from a place of choice. I can choose to do exactly what I want to do the rest of my life rather than living in this mental prison of I have to. And when you get that, when you reach that level, for anyone you know, tuning in or leaning into this conversation, when you realize that you don't have to do anything, that you realize the world around you is a world of manipulation, not because it's bad, that's just the way most of society works. They're trying to get you to behave a certain way so they can be okay. That can be you getting you to buy their product. It could be you living by their belief system. And then if you're living in the I have to, you have all these conflicting belief systems competing for each other, which is why we get into arguments and why we have the need to be right, because from our perspective, it should be this way. That can be a pinball machine inside your head that just has you going kind of crazy. And now you're living from these narratives that I have to do X, Y, and Z. I have to do this kind of work. I have to meet this kind of person. I have to have a partner. I have to do, you fill in the blank, and you probably understand where I'm going with this, versus realizing I don't have to do anything. I am completely free to be exactly who I am and discover deep inside of me exactly who I am. And once you let out into the world who you are, you will realize how unbelievably powerful you are in the best possible way when your authentic self gets to show up, make room for people, have the ability to be present, really listen and sit with people as they're explaining their perspective of life, their opinion about circumstances. You can really start to understand, man, where that comes from. And people ask me all the time, okay, great, that sounds really neat and kumbaya and, amazing, but how would that translate to me making more money? How would that translate to me in my business role? And that again helps me understand, as I'm listening and being present, they have a fear that if, again, I'm my true self, will I still be able to make money? Will I still be able to chase these things that I think I need to be happy? And that's one of the things I now excel at, is getting them to understand. Imagine how much better you would be at creating the life you want when you don't need anything. Think of the things you wouldn't put up with from a partner, from a boss, from a circle of friends. If you didn't need them, you didn't need them to tell you you were doing a good job. You didn't need a partner because you're so in love with yourself that you could say, hey, man, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not going to compromise anything because I feel the need for something. That level of freedom creates what so many people are chasing, which is that law of attraction. That's the most attractive you can be, I think, as a human being, is the person who doesn't need anything. People look at that and they're either triggered in the wrong way because they're like, I'm not that, I want that, and they get triggered by it, or they see that and they immediately align with it and they're like, I want that in my life where I don't need something. And when you don't need it, it's amazing how much it flows, back into your life. So that's a little bit of the journey, how I got to know Dave, the impact that he's had, on my life. He's a phenomenal business networker, connector, overall great human being. I would say there's no catch to his offer. Go email him at david@dmeltzer.com. Tell him your name, give him your address, and he will write you a handwritten note, sign the book, and send it, completely free of charge. His book, Connected to Goodness. And it's a great way to start introducing some of these concepts and seeing if it's right for you. And immediately you'll determine whether any of it makes sense for you right now in your life. And then I'm, of course, looking forward to reading his new book with the catchy title, Don't Do Business with Dicks. I think that one's going to be a show-stopping kind of book. So with that, I am going to go ahead and close out this amazing time that we have together. I want to say thank you to everybody for taking time out of your day. It's not lost on me, all of the things that you could be doing, but you chose to show up. I really genuinely appreciate that. And I hope you got something out of today's expansive life conversation. Next week on Tuesday, we will have another amazing guest, Chris Houth, somebody I met at the Jesse Itzler Adventure Club. He led us through the Grand Canyon. He led us through the Pinoti Trail in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta. He and I had an amazing conversation during 29. He's just an all-around amazing guy. Previous Olympic swimmer, triathlete, coach of Rich Roll. Just a phenomenal person who understands so much about living an expansive life. If any of these topics or concepts make sense to you, that you want to dive into it further, he's a great listen, because like a lot of people, you might think a triathlete, former Olympian, might show up with a ton of masculine energy of just do it, ignore the way you feel. He's the exact opposite. And he is all about opening up the spiritual experiences that you can have on the mountain, in the canyon, ascending Everest, or doing whatever it is, riding your bike across country. He's done it all, but he really understands balancing the energies and being able to access the appropriate energy at the right time to give you exactly what you need to be the most effective, most powerful version of yourself. So look forward to that. Tune in next Tuesday. We'll be back at our normal time. So we'll send out the link and look forward to seeing you all then. For now, thanks again for joining, and signing off, Sande Golgart. If you want to explore any of these topics further, you can reach me at sandegolgart.com. You can schedule a free consultation. If you want to go directly to that portion of my website, it's sandegolgart.com/consultation. Schedule 30 free minutes and we'll explore any possible places in your life where you're feeling stuck and you want to start pulling some strings and unwind that tightly wound hairball. So that being said, Jason, bring us home.
Thanks for watching an expansive life conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.